Test 1, 2, 3. and Legislative Committee. It is Wednesday, October 2nd. Shall we do the procedure for teleconference?
Sure. So I'll announce the trustees and do roll call. This meeting is being conducted virtually and in person, so I will do a roll call of the trustees to confirm attendance. Trustee Robbins and Green will not be present today. Ms. Ginsburg, Ms. Durazo, Ms. Gray,
Present.
Mr. Rue, Mr. Sanchez,
Here.
Mr. Oakham,
Here.
Mr. Moore,
Here.
Mr. Kehoe,
Present.
Mr. Harris.
Present.
Staff participating in the meeting include Deputy CEO Louis Lugo, AEOs JJ Popowich and Laura Guglielmo, Chief Counsel Stephen Rice, Legislative Affairs Officer Barry Liu, Director of Retiree Healthcare Cassandra Smith, Consultants Stephen Murphy, Michael Zetto, Debbie Donaldson, Richard Ward of Siegel, and Anthony Rhoda from Williams and Jensen, and Shane Dowsett from Dowsett Consulting Solutions. Trustees, please use the raise your hand Zoom option to be placed in the queue. At this time, we ask all meeting participants to mute their mics until you are ready to speak, and we may now proceed with the agenda.
Thank you. I'd like an approval of the minutes of the regular meeting for August 7th, 2024. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second. I don't think we have a form, so we'll have to table it.
Okay, we'll table both item 3A and B.
Do we have a form for the committee?
We do?
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Ms. Gray,
So yeah, that's 3.
Okay,
Oh, good. No, I guess we're good to go.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's it.
so it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes for August 7th, 2024.
So I do have a motion and a second. Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Rue.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
And item 3B, approval of the minutes for the meeting of September 4th, 2024. Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Second?
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe,
Yes.
Mr. Oakham,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
All right. And Bonnie, has there been any public comment?
We do not have public comment today.
All right. We have one item on our non-consent agenda. It is regarding our federal engagement visits with Congress. Mr. Liu?
Yes, good morning, Vice Chair Gray and trustees. This item is anticipation of the upcoming NCPERS conference, as we have done in years past. In conjunction after the conference, we will also do visits with Congress. Since last year, NCPERS has done their policy days on the last day of the conference where they would arrange visits with Congress, and then possibly the following day, there may be additional visits that would be arranged by our federal lobbyists. So this is just a recommendation, as we have done in years past, to approve our visits with Congress.
I would move to approve the visits.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Bonnie?
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Rue.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
All right, and then we're going to move on to our reports, the engagement report for September. Barry?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Gray. And some items of interest this month. First item is the periodic surveys from the Public Policy Institute of California. With this being an election year, they've done a statewide survey on Californians in the government. So candidates Harris and Walz are leading Trump and Vance by 31 points. Again, this is for California voters. And then Adam Schiff is leading Steve Garvey by about 28 points. In general, Democratic candidates are leading their Republican candidates in House district races by about 26 points. We have about 10 statewide propositions, and the most prominent is Proposition 36, which would increase the crime sentences. So that one has about a 71% support for voting yes. And then, since we have seen since the start of COVID, there's been a lot of economic pessimism. So voters think the state and the nation are kind of heading in the wrong direction as far as, and also expecting a bad times financially in the next 12 months. As far as approval ratings, President Biden currently has a 48% rating, Vice President Harris 53%. But as far as the U.S. Congress is concerned, it's less than a quarter approval. And then lastly, about 7 in 10 voters support a change in the Electoral College to a direct popular vote. The next item comes out of Colorado from their Public Employees Retirement Association. So in 2010, they created a hybrid plan for new employees. This is coming out of the Great Recession. So during that period, we have been seeing a lot of pension reform. But with this hybrid plan, they had done a study in 2014 on its cost effectiveness. And so they're going to redo that study, going forward. The 2014 study found that the hybrid plan in terms of replacement ratios from 77% to 85%, it would achieve that if an employee was hired, let's say, at age 25 and spent their entire career there. But at the same time, if the study looked at other non-Social Security states and found that the hybrid plan provides a comparable replacement ratio. The next item is about Cal Savers, our state-run IRA. So it has just achieved a milestone. It has reached $1 billion in assets, and this is from $569 million from a year ago. It was launched in 2019, and so there was a phased implementation starting with employers with more than 100 employees. The last group to be required to register with the program are employers with less than 5 employees, and so they need to do that by the end of 2025. And then next item is about Governor Newsom recently issued some emergency proclamations related to wildfires. And so what these proclamations do is similar to what happened with COVID. It suspended certain work hour requirements for retired annuitants. So this proclamation will be doing the same thing. However, the Sacramento Legislative Committee found that the context of these proclamations seem to apply only to local governments that are CalPERS contract agencies. But as we know, the 37 Act systems also have retired annuitants that might be affected by this. So the SACRS chair will be working with the Office of the Emergency Services to, possibly amend these proclamations and make sure they also apply to 37 Act counties. And then the last item is regarding HR 82, which is the bill to repeal the windfall elimination provision and government pension offset. I do have our federal legislative advocates here, Tony Rhoda and Shane Doucet, who will give a more detailed update about this. So Tony and Shane.
Thank you, Barry. Chair Gray, trustees and staff.
Mr. Rhoda, can you hold on for 1 second?
Certainly.
Mr. Oakham?
Yeah, I have a question. Barry, what about G? What kind of response are you getting with G? I think G is the one increasing the supervisors to 9 from 5. Have you seen that at all? Have you seen any results of that?
I haven't seen that. I don't recall if that's on the propositions or not. I know
It's on the proposition.
No, I haven't. I'll look more into that. So I don't have any information at this time.
It's a county measure,
I got
the
it.
LA County.
It's supervisor. Yeah, they want to go, which we haven't figured out why. I mean, can you imagine we're going to get another more people on this board? And I don't know why they need another 4 supervisors, but that's another issue.
Yeah, I think after the elections, I also have our state lobbyist Naomi here to give an update on that. So that should be part of the kind of a roll-up of post-election update.
So why don't we go back to the federal hopeful legislation to repeal the WEP and GPO. Tony?
Thank you, Chair Gray and trustees. Barry, always a pleasure to speak with you. Yes, I think we're nearing a historic vote in the U.S. House on repealing the Social Security penalties WEP and GPO, which LACERA has been on record for years as opposing those Social Security penalties and supporting the legislation HR 82. In November of 2023, which was within this current Congress, LACERA did write to the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee urging repeal of these penalties in support of the legislation. This is a historic vote. I think GPO became part of federal law in the late 70s and WEP in the early 80s. I'm not aware of a vote that the House has taken to repeal these penalties, despite heavy numbers of co-sponsors on the repeal legislation. This was engineered, and Shane, I'm gonna ask Shane to speak once I conclude, by the current lead Republican sponsor, Garrett Graves of Louisiana, and the lead Democratic sponsor, Abigail Spanberger of Virginia. And they filed in frustration a discharge petition, which under the House rules allows the bill to bypass the committee and come to the floor. The latest intelligence, and Shane may add to this, is a vote during the lame duck session, the post-election lame duck session, which will still be this current Congress, of course. Ultimate success defined by changing federal law and actually repealing these penalties, I don't give great likelihood to. However, this does put the members really between a rock and a hard place. You know, they have co-sponsored this legislation, some for Congresses in a row, and now they're going to be faced with a vote. The drag on the legislation is the cost, $196 billion over 10 years to the Social Security Trust Fund, and moving the insolvency date forward 6 months. So, you know, members have to weigh all of that as they cast their vote. But that being said, we do expect it to pass the House. The Senate, with some 63 co-sponsors, 3 of whom are from California, you may ask how that's possible. But Senator Feinstein, prior to her passing, actually co-sponsored the bill along with the 2 current California senators. Will they all hold together in the Senate? It's unclear. LACERA has a longstanding history of engagement. I recommend that we notify the Los Angeles County and metro area members of the House and the 2 senators to encourage them to support the legislation. And with that, I will pause and let Shane talk about his recent conversations, I believe, with the Republican sponsor of the repeal legislation.
Thanks, Tony, and good morning, everyone. I had an opportunity to speak to Congressman Garrett Graves from Louisiana, who's the lead Republican sponsor, along with Abigail Spanberger, who's the Democrat lead sponsor of the bill. And in my talk with him on Monday, he pointed out that this bill, which is called the Social Security Fairness Act, is probably has the most co-sponsors than any bill in Congress. It had 329 House co-sponsors on it. He pointed out in the last 64 years, there's never been a Social Security reform bill that's been enacted on a partisan basis. So that was important, you know, for him to get this much support on this bill. He pointed out also, to Tony's point, the cost issue, and that the bill is not paid for. CBO scored it at a cost of around $195 billion over 10 years, and that it could lead to the insolvency, which Social Security Trust Fund is projected to go insolvent around 2034, and it could accelerate that from 4 to 6 months on CBO's estimate. He pointed out that the bill that they're putting forward is prospective. It's not retroactive. They could be asking for $600 billion of your money, or if you're impacted by the WEP, that they've collected unfairly in the system. So it could be a much, much larger ask than the $175 billion, which again is money that's being taken from those that have been dealing with WEP and GPO over the last 40 years. So he wanted to highlight that. He basically asked my thoughts about when they should actually call the bill up. It has about 7 legislative days is when he could go to the speaker and then ask for it to go directly to the House floor, given this discharge process. The discharge process is rarely used. It's rarely successful. We did have a Congressman Stubbe from Florida, that used it back in May when he brought up a bill that passed on the House floor successfully. And one of the things that Garrett had cautioned me about is that the leadership could actually bring the bill under the suspension calendar, which will require a larger threshold of votes than a simple majority. Normally, when we bring up a bill under regular order, it's just a simple majority of those who are voting present. So normally it's around 218. If you do 2/3 of those that are present voting, usually that vote count goes to 345. So we will have opposition, to the bill. There are conservative Republicans, many of them the House Freedom Caucus, that have objected to the bill's costs. There are Democrats who are opposed to it. I talked to my Congressman Don Beyer, who's on the Ways and Means Committee where this bill was resting, and the former chair of the committee asked him not to sign the discharge petition, but he had already signed the bill. Garrett didn't want to have to use this process, this discharge petition process. He was hoping that they would actually just under regular order, be able to produce a bill. But the chairman, Jason Smith, was unable to come to any type of agreement under the WEP, and so it left him no choice. He said there's no bad feelings with the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee. He knows people will have objections given the cost, associated with it. But he feels that, the time is ripe. And he pointed out, in over 40 years, there's never been a House vote on WEP and GPO. So he will likely, when we return after the elections on November 12th, call for the speaker to have a vote. Then the legislative clock will start ticking, and most likely we would probably see a vote in early December on the House side. In the Senate, we have 61 senators who've signed on to a bill, identical bill, full repeal. Schumer is somewhat blindsided. He did not expect that the House may act on this, but he has told folks as recently as last week that it's unlikely that he would bring the bill up, given that they've got the budget to deal with, the National Defense Authorization Act, and that any senator could object to the bill, and that would take up about 2 weeks of floor time when he's going to be jam-packed for December. So the advice in talking to Congressman Graves and then other groups like the firefighters is to work with vulnerable Democratic senators who are up for re-election, like Senator Brown and others who care deeply about this, to go to their leader to ask for a floor vote, to see what happens. But we first need to get it out of the House. So I'll be doing some more digging just to see what that process may look like. But we would probably want the bill to come up under regular order where it's simple majority and not the suspension route, which could be a little bit dicey on the vote count. So I'll stop there.
And I'll just close by saying we jointly recommend that LACERA reaches out to the LA Metro members of the House and the two senators and encourage their support for this, and do so this month. It does not have to be done next week, but I would do it by mid-October. We can do that by email.
Thank you, Tony. As you know, this has been an issue that LACERA and those trustees who do the congressional visits, we've been, for as long as I've been on the board, been following you. Mr. Moore knows we've weathered the cold in DC all the way from California, and nothing has happened. And now to hear that Graves is saying it will not be retroactive, I guess it's not going to happen in my lifetime. So I just hope that members of this board will participate, go do the congressional visits. It's really, really important. It gives LACERA's voice heard, but we also speak for the entire state. So I would encourage everyone to attend.
Vivian, can I make a
Yes.
comment? Since we need to take action on this, this is more of a point of order. Can we make a motion on it, or can we just direct staff? I know we could direct staff, but can we make a motion on this?
Mr. Rice.
Yes, the board has already taken a support position on this bill. There's no need for additional action. This would be, an additional letter would be within the scope of the action already taken by the
Perfect.
board.
Perfect. Thank you. Then I'd like to just direct staff, if there's no objection from anybody on the committee, to proceed with assisting our consultants on getting the word out there and trying to put pressure on both sides.
Barry.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'll be working with Tony and Shane on reaching out on this. And then, and that was the last item and concludes my report.
Thank you so much. The next item will be our staff activities report for September.
Yes, good morning, Madam
Thank you.
Chair, members of the committee. On September 24th, last week, we held our retiree health care Staying Healthy Together program workshops in Carson, California. It was well attended. Over 525 members and their spouses attended. They enjoyed Mr. Lugo, our very own Mr. Lugo, providing them with welcoming remarks, sharing with them what LACERA's mission and vision is, as well as their economic impact from our retirees as a result of the volume and sheer number of retirees that we have. He also shared the transparency, our LACERA transparency, and our members actually got to see the presentation that was presented to the Board of Retirement offsite, the Alzheimer's and dementia one, which was very well receptive. They really enjoyed that, as well as another presentation on taking care of yourself. Many of them participating in the chair yoga, they liked that as well. So got a very good outcome for this workshop. We want to just thank our carriers for participating, as well as Siegel as helping LACERA spearhead that successful event. We have submitted successfully all of our retiree drug subsidy payments to RDS. We've received payments so far from Cigna, as well as for the local 1014 firefighters plans, and we expect to receive the funds for Anthem, Blue Cross, and Kaiser anytime now. And then lastly, what's not on my staff activity report, but I wanted to update you, it was in the CEO report for last month regarding Anthem and the HCA healthcare contract ending October 1st. I'm happy to report that they were able to reach an agreement, and that contract has been updated and extended for another 2 years.
Thank you so much. Moving on to our LACERA claims experience.
Good morning, trustees. The information has been included in your packet for your review. And I'd also like to note that the 2025-2026 renewal requests have been distributed as well this week. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And Mr. Murphy.
Good morning, trustees. One quick update legislatively. The final mental health parity rules have been established with new standards. Siegel will be hosting a seminar in November to provide a little more detail on that activity, but we'll also be reaching out to your vendor partners to understand how that's being applied to the plan of benefits for LACERA's retirees. And that concludes our remarks.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 7, any items for staff
Nothing to
review?
report.
All right, and any items for future agendas? No items? All right, we'll save good of the order for our regular meeting of the Board of Retirement. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, tap, tap.
Do we need?
5 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes for the Board of Retirement meeting. Let's start at 9:20.